Colorado judge on the Trump ballot removal trial refuses to recuse herself. Doesn't want to be removed from the case, says there's no reason to do that, even though she made a very interesting $100 donation. And I know it's just $100. I know it sounds minimal, but she's a judge. She's supposed to be impartial and unbiased. And we're going to go through exactly what this donation was for and when it was made, because she actually wasn't a judge at the time that she made the donation, but she was pretty dang close. We'll see what it looks like. But we're going to go through this hearing today because they're trying to throw Trump off the ballot. We've already covered the full Colorado lawsuit. It is one that left me concerned, and rightfully so, because this judge has now created this bizarre insurrection type trial where they're rehashing a lot of what Liz Cheney presented to us. And they even brought in Eric Swalwell, the guy who made Bang Bang with Fang Fang a CCP spy, to testify about how traumatized he was. And so we'll listen to a lot of the testimony that took place today, right after we hear from Judge Sarah B. Wallace, who refuses to recuse herself. And I want to share this video of her issuing the ruling today.
The court has reviewed the motion to recuse that was filed yesterday, as well as the exhibits. I do not dispute that in October 22nd, prior to taking the bench, I apparently made a $100 contribution to the Colorado Turnout project. That being said, prior to yesterday, I was not cognizant of this organization or its mission. It has always been my practice, whether I was entirely successful or not, to make contributions to individuals, not PACs. While I have no specific memory of this contribution, it was my practice and my intention to contribute to an individual candidate, not a PAC. I can assure all of the litigants in this litigation that prior to the start of this litigation and to this day, I have formed no opinion whether the events of January 6th constituted an insurrection.
We'll see.
Or whether intervener Trump engaged in an insurrection, or for that matter, any of the issues that need to be cited in this hearing. If I did, I would recuse myself. But because I don't, I deny the motion for recusal.
All right, so let's break down what actually went on in this donation, but let's learn more about that dono. Okay, it was $100, and you can see what happened here with the dono. It was made by Sarah Wallace. It went from the city of Denver. At the time, she was a lawyer. Okay, she was working at Ballard's Spar, and it was a $100 donation marked on October 15th, 2022. Seems like a small thing, not a big deal. Earmarked for the Colorado Turnout project. Filled out in the form, there was a memo section, right? I want it specifically going to the Colorado Turnout project. The recipient committee is Act Blue, and you know, it's a big organization for the DNC. So $100 is specifically earmarked for the Colorado Turnout project on October 15, 2022. She was a private lawyer, not a judge. What's curious about this is she was appointed on August 18th. Okay, so August 18th is when she got the appointment from the governor, just 3 days after she made the dono. Okay, dono made on 10/15, appointment made on 10/18, which means she's had already filled out all the judge paperwork. She had already completed all the due diligence. She probably already knew that she was going to be appointed at that time. It just hadn't been announced. Okay, she made the dono on a Friday. The announcement came in on a Monday. So she should have known about the Colorado rules that say you're not supposed to do this type of stuff. You see here, Governor Polis appointed Mark T. Bailey and Sarah Wallace. Sarah Wallace will fill the vacancy. Miss Wallace was a partner. She'd been there since 2013, employment law, blah, blah, blah. And now she is ruling on this case. Now, what's curious about this is that dono, that $100 dono made 3 days before she became a judge, it went to the Colorado Turnout Project. And if you go over to their website, this is what it says over there. They say here, it is the Colorado Turnout Project is a coalition of Colorado students, activists, and veterans, all Coloradans from various walks of life. We formed shortly after Colorado Republicans, refused to condemn the political extremists who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. What? It's the whole basis. In fact, Republican Representative Lauren Boebert even encouraged the violence. Now, the Colorado Turnout Project aims to prevent, violent insurrectionists by addressing this problem at its source. If we vote out pariahs like Boebert, we can turn Colorado blue once and for all. We aim to strengthen their majority and expand it, and we fight to remove hate mongers like Boebert. So the whole basis of this organization is to fight against an insurrection. The judge apparently doesn't make any other other donos out there, but loves to super chat anti-insurrection organizations. And Colorado law says you're not supposed to do that. So this judge, when she was applying for a judge, presumably knew what the rules were. And under Colorado Rules of Judicial Conduct 4.1 says, except as permitted by law, a judge or judicial candidate shall not act as a leader in a political office, make speeches, publicly endorse or oppose candidates, solicit funds for, or pay an assessment to, or make a contribution to a political organization or a candidate for public office. Same thing. Purchase tickets, identify as a candidate for political office, seek endorsements, solicit or accept campaign contributions, and the other things. So, not supposed to do that. Now, she did it as a private citizen, but just 3 days before she was appointed, meaning she knew that she was going to be appointed, and she knew she shouldn't be doing that stuff. And she did anyways, and she's not recusing herself, and she's denied all of Trump's motions to dismiss, and she's creating this bizarre situation now because we covered the original filing, and the strategy here is the same strategy that we talked about during COVID. What happened in COVID is a bunch of third-party entities would find some voters in various states. It was often the retired associations and alliances of America. People would create these organizations, largely Mark Elias and Democracy Docket, and they would sue the secretaries of state, and they would say COVID means we have to change all of these rules to support our low turnout problem and smash Trump's turnout. And they did that, and they won the election. And now they're doing the same thing. So these people are suing the secretaries of state, saying Trump has committed an insurrection. He has to be removed under the 14th Amendment insurrection clause, and she is now creating almost an insurrection trial. So the people sued the state. Trump is the intervener, and Trump is now fighting to say that he is not automatically disqualified under the insurrection clause. So we have this like pseudo hearing where I guess the judge is going to determine whether there's enough evidence of an insurrection and whether Trump should be removed from the ballot. And so this trial is going to be going on all week as well. I want to go through a couple of the clips. We've got the opening statement from the people who are bringing the suit. Let's listen to what they say. And again, audio is a little wonky on this, so I'm going to be trying to adjust.
6 Colorado, 4 Republicans and 2 independents brought this case to ensure Colorado has a fair election among eligible candidates. Trump incited a violent mob to attack our Capitol to stop the peaceful transfer of power under our Constitution. That mob got within 40 feet of Vice President Pence after they chased him from the Senate floor. That mob tried to hurt and kill our elected leaders, and we are here because Trump claims, after all that, he has the right to be president again. But our Constitution, our shared charter of our nation, says he cannot do so. And Colorado law says this court must ensure that only eligible candidates appear on our ballots.
All right, so they're saying he's not eligible because he already committed an insurrection. And they brought in this guy, Officer Hodges, the same guy that we heard on the January 6th committee. They also brought in Swalwell, who was there. We'll listen to some of it. But this is one argument from Trump's defense and the team who is trying to keep Trump on the ballot and let the people vote.
They're asking today for a number of historical firsts. First, this is the first they are asking this court to be the first ever in American history to disqualify a presidential candidate under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. We've pointed the court, I believe, to Horace Greeley, who ran in 1872 as a Democratic presidential candidate. He had paid for Jefferson Thomas's bail. He was roundly accused, loudly accused, of giving aid and comfort to the enemies of the United States shortly after the Civil War when he ran. Lots of debate on that issue. No one ever once thought of trying to disqualify him from voting.
His name
They
wasn't
took
Trump,
their
though.
arguments to the people for them to make that decision.
Yeah.
Eugene Debs, Socialist Party USA candidate in 4 elections, in 1920 ran from jail. He had been convicted of sedition for giving aid and comfort to enemies during the First World War by trying to stop military recruitment. He was convicted of that. He ran from jail. He was never disqualified. No attempt was made to disqualify him under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. The case of Eugene Debs is often regarded as a low point in American history, a low point when it comes to First Amendment protections. And for good reason. People should be able to run for office and shouldn't be punished for their speech.
They should. The people should be able to decide. And they followed a format that we're very familiar with. We have already had Officer Hodges, who testified in front of the January 6th Select Committee and with other officers, and they brought him back in. And so we'll listen to this just a little bit. But what's interesting, this is a constitutional, kind of question about the insurrection clause, and we're like going through an insurrection hearing. Again, it's bizarre, but let's listen to a little bit about what he said.
The crowd attacked me in a variety of ways.
He's right here testifying.
Chemical irritants such as OC spray or pepper spray. I was beaten in the head with blunt instruments, including my own riot baton. I was pinned and crushed with a police shield. I can't remember all the different ways in which I was assaulted.
Did you sustain injuries?
I did.
Which injuries?
I experienced pain and bruising about my body and a swollen hand. I had a large contusion on my head from being struck with my riot baton, which I believe resulted in a concussion. As I experienced a headache for about 2 weeks after the fact, I had lacerations in the face, bleeding from the mouth, and pain in my eye.
Did Trump do that, or what happened? I don't think Trump did that.
Tell us what was going through your head when you were being attacked that day.
All right, so you get the picture on it. You know, it's the same stuff, right? It's the same garbage we heard previously. And Swalwell was brought in. So let's listen to see what he said. You know, I'm in Capitol Hill. We're under attack again. Trump, Trump, Trump. This is Swalwell.
What was the first thing that occurred that was unusual to you inside the Capitol?
First, I would say watching the mob on our devices below pass with force various security perimeters was unusual. We've never seen anything like that before. But also on the floor, Speaker Pelosi was presiding in the House chamber, and abruptly he was asked to step off the podium, and her security detail took her off the floor. And I also noticed Mr. Hoyer, who was the majority leader, Steny Hoyer of Maryland, and James Clyburn of South Carolina, who was the majority whip, also their details hurriedly went to them and took them off the floor.
And about what time was that?
This was in the 1 o'clock, let's say mid 1 o'clock hour. And at that point, James McGovern, who was a Rules Committee chairman from Massachusetts, he stepped up to the podium, and so it was a seamless transition. Debate did not stop. He stepped up to the podium and presided over the debate on the matter of Arizona.
After Speaker Pelosi and the other members of leadership that you mentioned were moved out of the chamber, you said debate continued. For about how long did debate continue?
Probably another no more than 30 more minutes. And it may have been even fewer.
What happened next in terms of safety recommendations?
Mr. McGovern suspended debate, and a Capitol Police officer went to the podium. I remember it being the lower podium, so that the podium where the speaker presides, there's two podiums in what's called the rostrum. The upper podium is where the speaker presides. That's where I got to sit. That's where Speaker Pelosi and Pence presided. That's where McGovern presided.
All right, so that's the interference, right? That's the insurrection that they're saying Trump caused. And we get all that. We then get some cross-examination, which is good. This is from the team trying to keep Trump on the ballot. And this guy comes up and he asks some questions of Swalwell. Let's listen in.
Good afternoon, Representative Swalwell.
Good afternoon, Council.
Am I correct that you weren't injured on January 6th?
I was not. No, not physically.
Yet you are the plaintiff in a personal injury lawsuit that you brought against Donald Trump in the United States District of Columbia.
He's suing Trump?
Yes.
And you're seeking damages in that lawsuit?
Unstated, but yes.
Money.
No.
He's suing Trump for money?
And as a lawyer, you understand that if this proceeding against President Trump is successful, that would improve your chances of success in that lawsuit?
You'll win.
Correct?
Council, could you rephrase the question?
Yeah. You're a lawyer, are you not?
Yes.
And you understand that if this case goes against President Trump, that likely increases your probability of success in your personal injury lawsuit against him, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Goes to bias, Your Honor.
I'll leave it to the legal experts as to what this means for a separate lawsuit. I don't know.
What a dummy. Not a good lawyer. Would absolutely help him. Can't figure it out, though, but he's a congressman.
Is it your view, sir, that President Trump had some lesser quantum of First Amendment rights than every other American on January 6th?
No, it's not.
So he enjoyed the full, as far as you're concerned, he had every right that every other American had to speak with full First Amendment protections on that date.
In accordance with the law, yes.
And you pointed out that during his January 6th speech, he used the phrase fight and fight like hell, correct?
Yes.
And you would acknowledge that that is, in fact, common or not uncommon discourse in political circles.
Yeah, there's like
during
24
speeches,
minutes videos of Democrats all the time. Fight, 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 fight.
Yeah, politicians often say fight or fight like hell or words like that, right, when they give speeches.
Yes, sir.
You've done it yourself, right?
I have.
Many
Yeah.
Democratic colleagues do that too, right?
That's right.
Yeah, they do.
That's correct.
And when you do it, you're not calling for physical violence, right?
I'm not.
And you're not saying that your Democratic colleagues are calling for physical violence, right?
In my experience, that's not how I interpret it. No.
And you judge that by the words that are said, right?
And the surroundings of where they are, but yes.
I'd like to show you Exhibit 1066, which is designated as a cross exhibit. Well, I'm not asking you to put it up on the screen. I'm asking, did you have an objection to that?
No.
Could you put up Exhibit 1066, please?
Are you asking for it to be admitted?
I will, yes. Since there appears to be no objection, can it be admitted, Your Honor?
Yeah, 1,066 is admitted.
And, sir, I will represent to you that this is a collection of tweets from your Twitter account.
Yeah, get his tweets. Yeah,
And
baby.
why don't we look at page 16 first?
Swalwell says, if you think they'll stop with a woman's right to
You
choose,
recognize that as a tweet from your
make him read
verified
it.
Twitter account. You haven't been paying attention. We have to fight like our lives depend on it, because clearly they do.
Oh.
You wrote that, right? And you were not calling for any sort of a physical fight, correct?
No, sir, I was not.
You were not advocating violence?
I was not.
Are you responsible for attacks on
And
abortion
if-
facilities?
Look at the next page,
Swalwell?
please. Okay. And this is another tweet from your verified account, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you wrote, this is just the beginning, they won't stop. Fight like your lives depend on it, because they do, right?
Wow.
It says hashtag vote blue, yes.
Yeah. And again, you were not calling for physical violence, that was a metaphorical fight, right?
Correct.
Nice.
There was one other. Is this a tweet from your verified Twitter account dated February 4th, 2022?
Looks like it, yes.
You right there.
It says Cheney and Kinzinger may not be in my
but in
party.
this fight, we're all on the same side. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And what fight were you referring to here?
I have to see the tweet above it to have context, but I'm assuming based on the date that it refers to the January 6th.
No, it's the invasion of Russia.
But when you say the January 6th investigation, you mean the January 6th
Oh, maybe it's
Committee?
J6? Oh, this.
Okay, that was because Representatives Cheney and Kinzinger were the two Republican members who Speaker Pelosi had appointed to that committee. Is that right? And you considered them to be on your side of that fight, correct?
All right, audio's bad.
All right, we'll put that exhibit aside.
Should have made him read them. Can you read that, please, for us?
Now, earlier today, counsel showed you some tweets by President Trump. You remember that?
I do.
Did counsel pick which tweets they were going to show you, or did you discuss with them which tweets you wanted to testify about?
Those are tracked, those are my counsel.
Did you have an objection, is what the judge says?
So
I'm sorry, so no, I missed the, can you repeat the question and answer?
I think he said that they were chosen by counsel, Your Honor. So one that counsel focused on, if you would put up the 2:24 p.m., this is Exhibit 148, page 83, and that first one. Do you remember discussing this one from 2:24 p.m.?
Trump's tweet,
Okay.
Mike Pence didn't have the courage
And
to do
then
what should have been
if you go to
done.
the next page, the second tweet on that page.
Trump, I was asking everyone at the Capitol.
And you remember discussing the second tweet from 6:01 p.m.?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Now let's look at the two that counsel decided to skip that were right in between those two. Okay? Let's look first at the tweet from 15 minutes after the first one you discussed at 2:24 p.m. And at 2:38 p.m., 15 minutes or so after the tweet that you discussed about Vice President Pence, you see that President Trump wrote, "Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful." Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember reading that on January 6th?
I do.
What did you understand that tweet to mean?
That we needed 10 exits before he said it, before the mob had come. But I imagine had seen the violence committed against the officers, believed that he had the power because he sent them there to stop them from abusing the officers.
So whether he had the power or not, certainly he's telling people to support our Capitol Police and law enforcement and stay peaceful, right?
In that tweet, yes.
And he told them that in his speech, right? He told them to proceed peaceably and patriotically to the Capitol, right?
You'd have to play that for me, I know.
Okay, well, the judges heard it, so I'm not going to take the time to replay that now. Let's look at the next tweet that he sent at 3:13 p.m., if you put that up, please. You see that tweet? He says, "I'm asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violence!" exclamation mark. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you! Exclamation mark. You see that?
They like to skip over those tweets.
Okay. Do you remember reading that on January 6th?
I do, yes.
Okay. What did you understand that to mean on January 6th, sir?
That a lot of violence had taken place. At that time, I was, as I said, probably just arriving with a gas mask in my hand to the evacuation room, and the president is asking the violent rioters to stop attacking the police.
Okay. So that's a couple of posts between the two posts that you had previously discussed where the president is asking people to stop attacking and be peaceful, right?
In these tweets, yes.
In those tweets. And we looked at a short video of about 1 minute where he asked people to do exactly the same thing, right? To be peaceful.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah. And that came somewhere in the 3 o'clock hour, so presumably around or slightly after that 3:13 p.m. tweet, right?
That's about right, yes.
All right, looks like they're done with the tweets. shifting gears, and that's it. All right, so that's cross-examination of Eric Swalwell, the guy who made Bang Bang with Fang Fang a CCP spy, now also doing his part in testifying against Trump. So that hearing is a big problem, and it's going to continue on the rest of this week. We're going to continue to follow it, my friends, because I think this judge really has a desire to keep him off the ballot. And we've seen that in the many motions to dismiss that she's denied, and this trial has happened very quickly. And so we'll continue to follow. I hope you join us as we do. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing this video with a friend or family member, and for going to robertgovea.com to sign up for our daily newsletter. In case you miss anything here on this channel, it'll get delivered right to your inbox so you never miss a thing. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.